communication in this panel in English. So challenging, not just for the language, but for the topic. Why is sport good for health and more? Very broad topic and opens for a wide range of discussion. And what we want to do today is analyze how for our well-being, well-being of the population, but sport can also be a very, very powerful driver for economics, culture, and social growth. So we'll analyze it with the contribution of our guests. Very pleased to present to the audience. We'll start from Caroline Brooks, which came all the way to Luno from the southern of England. She's head of physical activity at the World Federation of the Sporting Goods Industry. Welcome, Caroline. And Nicola Gelder. Good morning, Nicola, and welcome, Vice President of Assosport, the National Association of Industry for Manufacturers and Sporting Goods. And then we have Gianni Frasson, Giorgio, the President of the Fondazione Sportsystem, which is based in Treviso, in Montepetona. And then Giulio Buciuni, that was in Buenos Aires yesterday, and now he's in Belluno. A big jump. And welcome, Giulio, Associate Professor in Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Trinity Dublin. So I want to kick off with a few questions just to help us get a better grasp of the context in which you work. Caroline Brooks, you assumed a few months ago the role as the head of physical activity at WFSGI. Um, could you please help us better understand what this federation is, who you represent, and what are the goals of this federation?
Thank you, and also thank you for inviting me to speak today. And well done on getting WFSGI
Hard.
correct. It's not the easiest thing to say, but and after 4 or 5 months in the role, I've been getting better. Um, so WFSGI is the Global Trade Association for the sporting goods industry. We represent about 70% of the industry in terms of turnover. So we're basically a trade association with the main objective really of supporting sporting goods industries to create a healthier, more active planet for all. So we coordinate and support in a range of different areas from trade, free trade and compliance, legal issues to sustainability. And my area is called Playground to Podium. So um, my role is as head of physical activities to support the sporting goods members to do more to get the world to do more. So that's us. I'm looking forward to talking a bit more about that a bit later.
Great. Thank you, Caroline. And Nicola, you're a manager, business consultant. You've been working in the international trade for more than 20 years, maybe 30. You're vice president of Assosport. And what is Assosport? And could you help us, from your perspective, of course, to understand how diverse the sport business is and how it is rooted in this area?
Okay, thank you. Again, thank you very much for inviting me here. Assosport. So Assosport is the Italian industry association of sporting goods producers. It represents 30 manufacturing companies who collectively brands, and they employ about 3,000 people. So it's a well represented association. Um, the Italian sporting goods industry obviously is an ecosystem which is made up of the upstream manufacturing companies before we have clubs and the federation and facility management companies and so on. We have media, sporting events, betting, and more recently sports tourism companies. And all of these interact together. So what goes on downstream obviously affect the upstream manufacturing companies. It's true that there are a lot of manufacturing companies based in the northeast of Italy. Among Assosport members, they are in particular textiles, supporting apparel producers, footwear, lots of technical
world-leading brands. And there are also companies producing technical materials. And I think what is important to know is that many of these companies started in past generations by visionary founders who had maybe a passion, certainly a passion for sport, an ability as craftsmen or a strong entrepreneurial spirit. And as you can see, this area is a natural playground with the mountains, the rivers, mountains, but also seaside, the plains, excellent cycling areas, trekking areas, and so on. So these businesses started off near to the roots of their founders, and they've grown into what we recognise today, and I think the world recognises, is a very long industrial cluster for sports football.
Yeah, thank you, Nicola. It's interesting because the sport is really like part of the DNA of this particular territory, and of course, business and all the managers are somehow they are keeping this heritage, in this territory, and what they do, I think, is very very important. And Gianni Frasson knows it very well. He's the president of Fondazione Sportsystem. Um, what is the foundation? So, the Sportsystem Foundation, and what are its goals? Hard question, I know.
Good morning. First, and apologize if my English is not perfect, but it's not my first language.
Don't
I
worry.
try to do my best. Yes, but before to talk about foundation sport system, I want to try to explain what is a sport system. Because a sport system for most of us is one, I don't know, particular word, but no one, no, many people know where we are located, what to do, especially close to here. So, for the beginning, I want to explain what is a sport system. Sport system is one area in northeast of Italy, okay, and is the most and important technology area for sport gear, for shoes, for bike, for any other component for ski that is, I say, the most famous in the world. Yes, motorbike, ski boot, cycling. In any case, the most technical components and final shoes or any other part for the fantastic emotion that we have every day born in this area. So in this area, with this amazing heritage, a group of brands create a foundation sport system. For maintain and renovate this technology and preserve this for pass this technology to the future generation. This is the purpose, the most important purpose that the Foundation Sport System want to do.
Very ambitious purpose, I would say. Giulio Buciuni, associate professor and also author of many articles for our newspapers from Nord-Est Multimedia, I found out yesterday. And later we will discuss about your latest book. But what I wanted to ask you first is, what have you focused your research on in recent years?
Uh, Thank you for the invite, and it's a pleasure being here. I actually spend a lot of time in Belluno, so I feel home, believe it or not. Um, Besides speaking about all my research, which I'm not sure you'll be interested in, let me just point out to one piece of research that I believe speaks about what we're trying to figure out today, which is the changing geography of the sporting industry. I'm interested in the geography of innovation and entrepreneurship. So I'm trying to answer one big question: why economically things happen in certain places and not in other places? What are the drivers of innovation and how does innovation distribute globally? So let me just point out that we are very lucky to be in a place in the world that has been famous for many years as the world capital of production of sporting goods. Now, is this still true? I would say yes and no. Why is that yes? Because undoubtedly there are still many companies producing and generating innovation between Belluno, Treviso, and Montebelluna. We all know who they are, and not just in this area. This is an Italian thing. But there are many new global capitals of production of sporting goods. Let me just refer to one of my articles published a few years ago that talks about the production of professional bicycles. I don't know if you know, but Veneto has been historically one place where bicycles were produced. With the introduction of carbon fiber, the actual production of bicycles move over to Taiwan. So today, if you want to know who is making the carbon fiber high-performing bicycle that you buy, they are made out of Taiwan. So am I suggesting this industry is gone? If you're looking at it from an Italian perspective, no. I'm suggesting that the geography of the production of this specific item has been changing. And I think it's up to us understanding who is making what, who is gaining value out of it, right? Besides simply saying, oh, we are those who have been making it for a long time. The beauty of globalization is that things change rapidly, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. So the big question for us is, how do we position ourselves in the global landscape, right, that is changing so fast? From a production of equipment perspective to the other element that I might like to emphasize later with you, it's a matter of where production of sporting goods happen, and it's a matter of where sports are played. I think we are witnessing two evolving geographies, right? And I believe the intersection of these two geographies is what I would like to discuss perhaps with all of you in the coming hour, right?
Great. So we started from health and then we moved to manufacture and then we arrived to geography. So sport and more. So I think we're on track. Caroline, let's get back to you. We had the chance to share a few ideas in the past few days, and there is a very interesting thing that you pointed out, and is about the recent data released by the World Health Organization. Why are they concerning, according to your point of view, and how are the companies that your foundation represent reacting to those analysis?
Thank you. So yeah, the data that came out in June by the World Health Organization reported that some really quite worrying data about physical activity. And for those that don't perhaps know what the definition of physical activity exactly is, the World Health Organization describes it as being bodily movement that gets you warm. So it doesn't need to be elite level sport. It's moving, it's walking, it's climbing, and these beautiful mountains that you have here. And cycling, but the spectrum of physical activity ranges from there all the way up to competitive sport. The data revealed that globally 31% of adults are not doing enough physical activity to maintain good health, which is 1 in 3 people, that's 1.8 billion people. And that's been growing steadily since 2010. So this is not a blip because of COVID. This is a systemic trend of people moving less. What is even more worrying is the statistics for young people, for adolescents. 81% of young people are not doing enough physical activity to maintain their good health.
81%.
81%. It's a statistic that's not really, there's not enough noise about it, and that's why we're making a bit of a noise about it now. That's the future population of the world that are developing poor habits now, a habit of inactivity rather than a habit for physical activity. We know that because of the inactivity levels, 500 million more people are going to fall into poor health between now and 2030, and that's going to cost 300 million US dollars. in additional costs to treat all those people with those long-term health conditions. Now, that's a lot of money that could be spent on other things, and these illnesses that you can develop because of poor physical activity are things like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancers. Some cancers are attributed to low physical activity levels. And also, there's so many benefits for mental health too. I think post-pandemic, we recognized there was a real spike in depression and anxiety amongst young people, and physical activity can be so beneficial for that. And it can also help young people with their bone health and with their cognitive development as well. So there's so many reasons why physical activity should be something that young people do much more regularly. So why is the sporting goods industry interested in this? I mean, I was appointed in April. It's the first time the WFSGI have had such a strong focus on physical activity, and it was voted by our members as being the #1 priority for a few reasons. For the cynics, it's obviously a business imperative that people move more for our industry, because if people are moving more, they're more likely to buy sporting goods, they're more likely to buy trainers, they're more likely to buy clothing. And the markets at the moment, if you think about physical activity, they're shrinking, you know. So what we want to do is work out a way in which we can get the markets growing again. So the 30% of adults and the 80% of younger audiences who are not moving more are new markets for our sporting goods industry to tap into. We signed a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, with the World Health Organization last year, because the World Health Organization also realizes the potential of the private sector to try and help governments who are struggling with this challenge. And so what we do at WFSGI, we have built on the MOU, we have a physical activity committee and some really interesting activities that we're doing, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But it's a complex problem. I think we're going to talk about barriers as well a little bit later. There is no one solution that will tackle this, but certainly galvanizing the private sector and the sporting goods industry to do their part is an important piece of the jigsaw.
Could you mention maybe some of the big brands that contribute to this statement? Are there Italian brands too?
Yeah, Tecnica is one of the main Italian brands. They're one of our bigger members. What we decided to do is we have a physical activity committee that's made up of around 30 of the biggest sports brands. So Nike, Adidas, New Balance, Asics, Mizuno. And what we decided to do for the very first time would be to publish a statement. Now, it sounds a little bit flaky, just a statement, but it was the very first time that our industry had put their competitiveness to one side on a topic that they feel is bigger than their market share. You could argue that those inactivity statistics are the competition in the future for their businesses. So we persuaded 25 CEOs of these companies. So that's the senior leadership within Nike, Adidas, and some of the others, to agree to work together. And in the statement, there were 4 commitments around different areas of focus. But it's given us the platform now and the mandate to do a lot more. And so that's my role in the coming months and years, to really channel that commitment into some tangible actions.
And it's great you underline that somehow companies are overcoming competition and they are assuming a social role. So industry, it is not just about growing and getting richer and richer, and industry can really have a social role. And Nicola Gelder, the sport industry, and I think we observed it in the first 2 days of this Sport Business Forum, have demonstrated a great ability to adapt to the market and to address new consumer needs. What are the current trends in the sector from your perspective?
Okay, thank you. Well, one trend that's perceived among Assosport members is a generalized increase or interest in sporting activity by Italians, but maybe a different kind of sporting activity. So there seems to be a heightened perception among the population of the benefits of, and the health benefits, the well-being benefits, and the social benefits of sport. There's also the success of Italian sporting personalities is also very important. We've had many champions in recent years, and these boost a desire across multiple disciplines for people to take up new sports. And also, I think a very important phenomenon is the rise of sports tourism. So not just practicing sport for competitive purposes, but taking time to regenerate in nature, enjoying hospitality, local food, local drink specialities. Some people in their sports tourism activities are looking for organized areas and facilities. Other, as Anna Ferrino, our president, noted in an interview, are looking for uncontaminated values. So it's important to find a balance between these two things. There are certainly challenges to the industry that stem from changes in society. I think one challenge is generational change, and I think that's both within enterprise, so ensuring continuity of enterprise, but also changing generations. So well-known Gen Z, who wants, they're anxious about climate change and sustainability. They're concerned about the authenticity of brands' intentions. And it's important for the enterprises to find new talent, to develop new products, take new perspectives, and respond to new market demands. And we should remember that by 2030, millennials and Gen Z will make up about half of the population. So that's a really big change that the companies need to face. Changes in habit. So I think the rise of what's now called liquid sport. So people doing sport not so much for competitive pursuit, but for the well-being it brings, connecting with nature. So not in organized sporting structures, but something that someone can do perhaps privately. I think that's a new phenomenon. So focus on physical and mental well-being rather than competition. The silver economy, of which I'm certainly a part. So perhaps a higher propensity to spend than the younger generations, but a desire to do the same sports that young people are doing, and perhaps to invest in good quality equipment that they can afford at this time of their life. Digital technologies certainly will continue to increase in future. So that's another way of capturing interest, apps, monitoring competitive performance, just vital parameters for people who are interested in non-competitive activities. And I think a huge challenge comes from the new regulatory environment that's facing us all in Europe. We know that Europe, with the Green Deal, wants to be at the forefront of sustainability, preventing climate change in the world. And a lot of its policies are now starting to touch other areas of the world because there are measures that are affecting the supply chains. And so companies based in this part of the world who have supply chains based in other parts of the world will have to start applying, the European reporting and due diligence requirements throughout their supply chain, and that's a huge challenge.
Well, you mentioned all the challenges that the business sector is facing, and you mentioned the generational change, yeah, and the problem of finding new talent, and that's one of the main goals of the foundation of Sportsystem Foundation. Gianni, you are focusing very much on training, and you launched an important training project recently. Could you tell us about it?
Yes, it's true. For us, the most important purpose of a foundation Sportsystem is to teach all technology to the young generation. The competition was strong, is strong, will be strong. So will be not easy or future. But if we preserve, if we maintain all knowledge or heritage, and we are able to pass this heritage to the young generation, certainly we could have a little more chance for still and remain strong in the world, because we would remain strong in the world. So for this reason, we work really hard for our school. We invest a lot of time in this new location, okay, where we have a completely new area in center town of Montebelluna, the capital of Sportsystem. So we are located here a new class for our student, and we prepare just free courses, modelista, stitching, and 3D CAD. Okay, this is just ready because start today. There are at the moment 26 new students, young students. Okay, and we are really proud about this opportunity. Certainly, we have still work in the new courses in cooperation with our associate for create a particular new idea tailor-made for this special sports system request. Because this kind of lesson you can find in a normal school. So you have to live this particular world that only Montebelluna area you can find. So our teachers that work for a long time in the big brand, so they learn any detail, any minimal detail for any part of this sport gear that we use every day, are the best opportunity for the young generation, that they pass this technology, this experience to the younger.
Great. So sport, it's a way to really keep our young talents in this territory, but sport is also a driver for the development of secondary location. And with you, Giulio Buciuni, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your last book, Periferie Competitive, which is somehow related to sport and the topic we are going through today. How could you explain it to us?
Yeah, I want also to perhaps link back to the comments that I just heard, because they are extremely interesting, and too bad I haven't brought any pens to take notes. Okay, so let me step back and simply start from where my latest book began, which is addressing a new form of economic disbalance, economic inequality that we are witnessing in today's world, and that is a result of the geographic concentration of innovation in very few places. Yeah, so let's start from this. If innovation is concentrating in few places only, then the risk is that many other places are left out of this new global network of superstar cities. Okay, so this is a fact. Now, the question is, how do places that do not belong to this group of superstar places find their own space in the global innovation system or in the global economy? And sadly, Italy has plenty of these places. You take out Milano, which is the only alpha city in Italy, and all other places are today fighting to remain relevant in the global economy. So Montebelluna has long been the one place to be or to go to come up with new ideas, to produce new models of Nike shoes. I remember being a big football fan. Major football players used to come to Montebelluna because Montebelluna was the place where Nike would produce their boots. I'm not sure that's true anymore. Montebelluna remains the place, but it's not the only place. Okay, so what I'm going there is, how do secondary places reinvent themselves to remain relevant in a world that is reshaping itself and is concentrating into few big places? If we look at sports, where is that going to? Well, production-wise, I've just mentioned, not just China broadly, but specific places in China are becoming new nodes in the global network of production and sports system. And so the divide is between places where goods are manufactured and places where goods are invented. So if we look at places where goods are invented, then perhaps we should talk about Oregon, Portland, Beaverton, which is Nike Town. So is Montebelluna becoming Beaverton? I don't think it is there now. So I'm very proud to see that a lot of new activities are put in place to help new generation engaging in manufacturing activities, but I wonder, what do we need to do to make Montebelluna a small Beaverton, to make a place where goods are designed, where goods are invented, where global talents from all over the world will look at Montebelluna, just like they look at Nike Town in Beaverton, say, that's the place where I want to invest. That's where I want to go to come up with a new pair of boots, with a new technology for skiing, with a new technology for tennis. That is the challenge I believe the secondary places need to be aware of. It's not just a matter of playing the game you used to play for a long time. It's a matter of understanding what are the drivers, that are reshaping the concentration of innovation in today's society. And that is a profound change with respect to what we've been used to. So again, changing geographies in the production of goods, one thing, changing geography in the innovation of goods. That's another important map, and the two maps do not always overlap. Why they do not always overlap? Because there has been a separation between production and innovation. We used to think about innovation being the direct result of production. That might be true in the case, and I don't want to go too theoretical now, in the case of innovation that is called process embedded. When innovation takes place through the execution of production phases, then yes, that is the case. But things started to change when we introduced new materials in hockey, in tennis, okay, in skiing, and we witnessed the separation between where things were manufactured, and where things were innovated. So the separation between innovation and production in the sports system industry, it is happening. And we need to think about how places that used to be central, used to be global capital of the production system, are now trying to remain central, are gaining new momentum, are becoming new central, in a world where innovation and production are separated. I think that's the big challenge, right, that we need to discuss. Well, I believe from my perspective, I'm not suggesting this is the only thing that matters. And just food for thought, there's a third map that I believe we could also intersect with these two maps, which is not the geography of production, which is not the geography of innovation, is the geography of where sports happen. Okay, so where are people playing sports these days? I don't want to talk too much about it now, perhaps that's a following question, but there are new places that are coming up strong as new top destination for specific sports. Let me give you a few examples. Cape Town. If you are a kite surfer, if you love windsurfers, you would go to Cape Town. I don't know if you know Boulder, Colorado, Aspen, Colorado. If you are in the US, those are becoming places where you want to go because it's cool, because you have lots of sport activities, because it's becoming central in a map that used to be more distributed. And if we look at Italy, well, believe it or not, Lago di Santa Croce is a very popular destination for kite surfer from all over Italy. So look at that, right? Have you ever thought about it just a few kilometers away from here? And just the last one, I promise. Livorno, which is certainly not a prime destination in Italy for many things. Livorno is becoming a destination for people who like to do windsurf. So again, three maps that might help us understanding what's the destiny of places that are not global capitals of anything in the today's sport industry, but they might carve out a new positioning in these new evolving maps.
Wow. Bravo. Well, Caroline, amazing things happen when people do sports. But another challenge, I think, is to communicate. So communication is strongly related to innovation. Companies have to communicate in an efficient way to also help overcoming some cultural barriers that still keep people away from doing sport. And WFSGI, so hard.
Well done.
Well done. Um, is investing very much in this aspect.
Yeah, thank you. And I feel like I'm the doom and gloom on the panel because I'm talking about poor participation in physical activity and poor health and now the barriers to physical activity. But I think it's important we understand the challenge that we face. Um, the barriers to sport and physical activity are pretty stubborn, and I think they've been there's many of them. I listed them out the other day for my own benefit, and I think there's 15 or so different ones, and they will always vary in what country you live in, how old you are, whether you're a man or a woman, what culture and what religion you may follow. So it's a very complex system in which, if you're going to try and change physical activity levels and shape people's behavior, then there is no one solution. That's what is important to understand. But there are lots of positives that our industry is doing to try and break down those barriers. There's lots of examples of campaigns. ASICS did a brilliant one during the Olympics where they had a video of people exercising in a gym, and it was all about losing weight, but it wasn't about physical weight, it was losing weight off their minds. And ASICS do a lot of work to promote physical activity and sport for mental health gains. Nike is also leading on product innovation. They're doing some brilliant things. They have a pair of trainers called Flyees, which are brilliant for people with a disability or a mobility issue because they're just pull-on trainers. And then there are barriers for women in particular, which some product innovations have really focused in on. Nike developed many clothes for Muslim women, but there are examples. Adidas and Canterbury have developed clothing for women when they're on their period, so they're not wearing white. And it's small things like this that actually are really making a big difference. But I think what we have been doing in our committee. So as I mentioned, we have this physical activity committee that it's focused on trying to make sure that the good stuff that the industry is doing is strategic and coordinated, so that we can really make sure all the barriers that are out there are addressed. So building on the joint statement that we published in June, we're looking at producing a global impact report next year that solely focuses on the impact that the industry is having on physical activity. Our brands love that because it's an opportunity to show off about what they're doing really well. But it also means we can identify some gaps as we recognize, I think in the disability space in particular, the participation levels are really poor for people with a disability, and that goes under the radar. But I know that there's a lot our sector can do on that. And the other thing we may be doing next year is trying to put together a summit. So a little bit like a COP for climate change, but something for physical activity that brings youth audiences into the room to talk about what they would like to see change to really make their behavior change towards physical activity.
That's great. COP, a sport COP. Well, maybe sustainability, or maybe for sure, sustainability could be one of the central point of this future sport COP that you're planning to do. And when we get to sustainability, Nicola, I know you were deeply involved in the recent years in this in sustainability. And how are Assosport members applying this concept to their projects?
Yes, I've been deeply involved in recent years in the regulatory compliance aspects because it's also so complex. So all these new rules that will lead us in the EU to achieve, hopefully, climate neutrality by 2050. What does that mean? That means, from a product perspective, applying so-called eco-design principles, so trying to use more natural materials as opposed to materials derived from petroleum, include recycled materials in products, make products recyclable, make them more durable, make them more repairable, and in general, trying to put resources back into the economy at the end of products' lifetimes to create secondary resources rather than relying so much on virgin materials. That's all well said and done. From a supply chain perspective, as we said before, that means knowing who your suppliers are and knowing who the suppliers of your suppliers are and how they are applying human rights and labor principles, how they're managing their environmental impact and so on, and that's an absolutely huge challenge. Having said that, Assosport members have been working for a long time on sustainability, I think predating perhaps a lot of these rules. Already back in 2022, Assosport conducted a study on the sort of, the sustainability projects that were being undertaken by its members. And it resulted that well over half, 61% of entrepreneurs were dedicating 10% of their investments to sustainability issues. And obviously, this figure is growing. Their focus was mainly on emissions reductions, less use of chemical substances, and measures to reduce production waste. But there are lots and lots of examples among Assosport members. If you go to the website and find out who the members are, you can look at these various projects. Just to cite a very few, Caroline was talking about playgrounds. One of Assosport members, Assosport, has been collecting sports shoes, tennis balls, and bicycle tires, and has been reprocessing them to create playgrounds for, flooring for playgrounds and flooring for athletics tracks, that kind of bouncy playground that you often see. Technica is well known for its Recycle Your Boot project. Ski boots generally end up in landfill because they're made up of many complex parts. So they've worked on this project for many years, taking back ski boots from any brand, selecting ones that could be directly reused, and then donating them for reuse, and then breaking down the materials, recycling the materials that could be used as secondary raw materials to make new ski boots, and then using innovative technology to produce ski mattresses for ski slopes with the materials that couldn't be used directly as secondary raw materials. Scarpa is a very well-known Italian brand, and they've been collecting one of their most iconic brands of hiking shoe, and they've been disassembling it and trying to use secondary raw materials in new hiking shoes, which have 50 to 70% of recycled materials in. They've developed a new process for dissolving leather, and then they're using the liquid that they produce to tan new leather, so that's reducing chemicals in the tanning process. Many other examples. Vibram, which produces soles, which I'm sure everybody has a Vibram sole somewhere in their wardrobe, is in fact an Italian company. People maybe think it's, an American or some other company, but it's firmly rooted in Italy, and they've been working on using recycled materials in their soles, and they've also set up a repair facility. So all kinds of things have been going on to make products more sustainable. The flip side is that more sustainable products cost more, and consumers aren't always ready to pay that price premium. I know that Ferrino has made a pair of snowshoes that's entirely made in Italy, and they have an almost identical product that's made in the Far East. But at the end of the day, there aren't that many consumers who are willing to pay that price premium to have the made in Italy version of the same product. So the sports industry is very different from the high fashion sector, which has very high margins. The sports sector tends to have much more democratic prices. And so, if consumers do want to have sustainable products, then they'll probably have to be ready to pay a price premium for them.
Gianni, I've seen you were agreeing with Nicola, and well, maybe sustainability is really leading the innovation also in the companies that belong to the Montebelluna Asolo district.
Yes, innovation apart that could talk Giulio for me because he just present everything that we have in our also, yes, purpose, but also vision for the future. But of course, here the question is quite complicated. We can talk a minimum another half day for talk about innovation or sustainability. But certainly, our district is just now one of the most important technology area. And Montebelluna area, like said, also Giulio, invest a lot in the innovation. And this is completely true. Like I said, there are a lot of foreign countries, US or from EU, to in any case cooperate or have their own R&D office in Montebelluna. And this is just one important part of our capacity to create innovation and create appeal for enter in our area for developers new things. But certainly we can't stop to investigate. We can't remain in close to our area without to check what there are outside. So absolutely, we can't close our mind. This is clear. There are other areas. So we don't talk before come here, but we have the same opinion. So there are other areas in the world where there are good technology and innovative idea. We must integrate it with our experience, especially in cooperation with Asia, with Taiwan. And because is right, there are many other areas where there are a lot of innovation. And we have to change our perspective. We have to change some things because without innovation, we don't have a future. This is clear. It's impossible to remain in another kind of vision. We must absolutely maintain this attitude that this area have also in the past, have now, and they must absolutely maintain this attitude for cooperate also with other countries. For me, from my point of view, is really important to change some things because it's right what said Giulio. We have here the innovation, but the most part of production are in other countries. But we can't maintain in Italy only innovation. Absolutely, we need also to maintain also part of production. Maybe the high quality, of course, because the prices can be keep over control with the European cost. This is clear for all, but must be clear also for our associate, for the brands, that if we maintain in Europe, in Montebelluna or in other areas, only the innovation, this is not enough, because when you lose the capacity also to produce, we can't innovate. For innovate, you must absolutely produce. Because only during the production, you understand what is the limit, what is the problem, what is the opportunity that you can change. So for me, is necessary really create two new different ideas for the future. The first is absolutely we have to integrate all technology with the foreign technology. So we have to ask them to cooperate with us. And the second, don't forget that without production, we don't have innovation.
Thank you, Gianni. Giulio, if you want to link back to what Gianni just said, maybe cooperation is the key to keep innovation and production together in these secondary areas. What do you think about what he just said?
Cooperation, you mean among stakeholders?
From different countries, maybe
from different countries.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I do believe that trying to link back not only to what they have just commented on, but also to the specific location of this territory, where Belluno is located in the world, what are the opportunities for Belluno and for the Sportsystem Valley down in Montebelluna in Treviso. As I was listening to them, the one word that came up in my mind is ecosystem. I think the big challenge that is awaiting us is the transition from a system to an ecosystem. And the eco part of the word does not simply talk about ecology, even though the ecosystem terminology comes from biology, but I think it talks about a broader concept that encompasses many pieces of a puzzle that now is scattered across various countries. And that puzzle is made of innovation, is made of production, is made of, I'm adding a third element, community, right? Communities of people who play sport. It's becoming more and more relevant, and I'm sure the panel here knows about it, that top brands try to link to communities to remain relevant. Okay, so remaining relevant in today's society is one of the most important strategy for global brands in sport, in the sporting system. I'm not using again the example of Nike, but if you look at what's happening in, for instance, sneakers that are produced for outdoors but are now finding their place in urban context, like Sportiva or like Scarpa, these are new trends, right? Like if you go to East London or if you go to Chinatown, Milano, people are wearing La Sportiva and Scarpa, and you wonder, wow.
Yeah, like the famous Mojito shoes from La Sportiva. It's like an everyday shoe.
Exactly. So big brands are becoming more and more conscious that they need to find global communities of early adopters and talk to them. So ecosystem means bringing together those who produce, those who innovate, design, and communities. And these three pieces, to me, are part of the same puzzle. So I'm absolutely in agreement with the previous comment to say there's no innovation without production, but I'm adding another layer. There's no innovation with no production, with no design, and with no community. So how do we bring together, and in a cohesive fashion, these three fundamental pieces of the puzzle that we are trying to make sense of? So back to Belluno, perhaps. What an opportunity. What an opportunity. We have the Sportsystem Valley here. Some companies are located here in Belluno. Some companies are in Montebelluna. Some companies are in Treviso. They have been doing a great job in the past few years, reinventing themselves in global production system. Some of them, if you allow me a comment, may have lost a bit of momentum in this global game of connecting with communities. Some brands are perhaps not perceived as contemporary as they used to, and that's a fact. I think we need to face reality at some point. But now we have an opportunity to regain momentum as central in what's happening at global level, which are the Olympic Games. So linking together the Olympics Games that are happening here outside Belluno with the tradition, the sport production tradition that has been going on here for a century, maybe even more, and trying to bring here that third piece, which is communities of adopters, of people who are trendsetters that are kind of paving the way for what are the new evolution of trends in the sporting system. I think this is the puzzle that we need to kind of shaping together, pointing towards the creation of an ecosystem. So innovation is central, no doubt about it. I think the challenge here is to ask ourselves, how do we transition from a sports valley to a sport ecosystem? How do we make this place a central place in the world when we talk about sport in its various fashions?
Wow, that's quite complex. Thank you, Giulio. And Caroline, maybe you're used to this complexity, right, in your foundation. And there are many challenges that the big brands have to face. And now, what about the long-term goals? Now that you just started, I mean, to be the head of physical activity at WFSGI.
You're getting good at it
I'm
now.
getting good.
Well, I think what we'd love to see is building on this joint statement that we published, maybe a pan-industry campaign. All of the brands are so good at releasing product launch campaigns. Some of them are also starting to deliver campaigns that target specific audiences, like the ASICS one I mentioned, where they were trying to get people to change their views on physical activity as being good for your mind as well as your body. And there was an amazing campaign in the UK around 10 years ago called This Girl Can, which is a brilliant campaign. It was launched because in the UK there was a 2 million difference between the numbers of men taking part in regular physical activity and the numbers of women. So there was a clear reason why women weren't. We thought there must be a clear reason why they weren't taking part in sport. They all wanted to do more, but there were so many barriers and perceptions and fears. And so Sport England launched a campaign, and it was a very simple 3-minute advert on television which showed women in all their jiggly glory. It was an amazing. No one's seen it. It's still up on YouTube. But what it was trying to do was to show real women, the stories of real women taking part in physical activity in the way they want to do it. And they were all hot and sweaty, and all of the perhaps the fears that women have that may stop them from getting up and taking part. And the campaign was inspirational. It inspired nearly 3 million people to take up sport. I don't think they're able to really say now that that's sustained. I think COVID definitely impacted, but again, comes back to this complex system that we work in. You can have a brilliant campaign that will change the mindsets of people in the next 6 to 12 months, but can they sustain it? And I think the challenge to our industry also is that I think what the sporting goods industry is good at is keeping the already active active. And there will be a segment of society that will always be more likely to pick up a tennis racket or put on a running shoe. But it's that segment of society that are not so likely. And do they reach those audiences? Can they reach those audiences? I'm certain they can, but at the moment it's not necessarily their core market. It's a challenge to get the behavior change that you need in some of those audiences. But if they don't look at the younger audiences, that 80% that I spoke to you about that are not doing enough, that's their future market of consumers that may well turn to other things. I just wanted to mention finally around the Olympics and knowing that the Winter Olympics coming up here is such an opportunity. There are ambassadors and elite athletes that really can inspire young people, but it has to be relatable. And I think some of the work that we're going to be doing with our brands in the coming year is using the brand ambassadors to talk about relatable stories that can really engage younger audiences. But the major sporting events are a really untapped resource, I think, for promoting physical activity to communities.
Thank you, Carolyn. And of course, we have some time left for questions from the audience. So, if there are any questions, please raise your hand, and we have some time left. But if not, in case I would approach with you the final remarks in this last few minutes. Of course, if there are no questions. No. You? Okay. I thought you raised your hand. Sorry. No, he didn't. He just he's scratching his hand. Nicola, the Gelder, the Olympic Games. I know you have something to say about it too.
Well, I don't know what I can add to what Giulio has already said. He gave us an awful lot of food for thought there. That was very much appreciated. I think everyone realizes just how important the Olympic Games will be for the long-lasting effects that it'll produce, not just at that particular moment in time, but moving forward, hopefully it will complete the post-COVID recovery for the for Assosport members. There were particularly apparel and footwear producers found themselves with a boom in demand during the COVID period, when people wanting to get out into the open and practice, sports in the open, and that led to overstocking. So hopefully there'll be a new boost to consumer demand. Obviously, connecting with communities, a showcase for all these wonderful Italian brands, which are world-class brands, but not everybody necessarily associates them with Italy and with this area. And also the public investments in infrastructure always have a very important multiplying effect. And so hopefully, yes, long-lasting benefits for the sector.
Thank you, Nicola. And Giulio, yeah, you mentioned infrastructures. Giulio, what about the role of institutions? I mean, let's think about the Olympics. Institution, of course, they played a very important role in getting the Olympic Games taking place here in Milano Cortina. So how important is the role of institution?
Huge. That's why I'm worried.
You're worried?
Yeah, because it's huge. Responsibility. I mean, what they can do is it's very important, and beyond what we can see, not just making sure that the Olympics will take place here, which is just part of the game. I think the game starts now. On the one hand, making sure that everything happens uh, at the right pace, at the right time, with the right cost. But even beyond the simple execution of the Olympics, I think what needs to happen is understanding what is the opportunity that is coming up. And the opportunity is that for a few weeks, few months, um, the lights of the world will point to one specific place in Italy, which is not just Belluno and the Dolomites, it's Milano for other reasons. That's fine. That is actually fine. I think that is a very good idea to link the Dolomites to the only metropolitan city in Italy, and kind of creating that blend that goes beyond this simple idea that the Dolomites are a very hard to reach place. Partially it is true, but showing that Milano is not too far away from a person who is not from Italy, I think it's a strong message we are sending out, that making sure the connectivity is real. I think it's a big piece of this conversation. So looking back at institution, our institution making sure that the connectivity between Milano and Belluno is actually happening. I'm not too sure. I wish it would, but I'm not too sure. So what that's one piece of what the institutions, public, let's talk about them openly. Public institutions could do, right? So hardcore infrastructure, making sure that people can move around, things happen, right? Let's rewrite this Italian reputation of people who cannot make things work when it comes to infrastructure and when it comes to efficiency. We can be efficient. Let's show the world that we can be efficient. That's one thing that I believe institutions should be focusing on. I'm a little worried there, but I'm more worried on the, let's say, soft part of the game. The soft part of the game is making sure that there's a strong brand identity, right, that we are communicating to the world. And this strong brand identity goes back to what I was trying to discuss before, is this transition from a place where we used to produce things, we're still producing things, partially, we are inventing things, that we are now embracing outdoor living, climate change, sports equipment production, innovation, creating a whole around ecosystem that is connecting, tapping to the Olympic Games to show the world that things are happening in this part of of Italy. I'm not too sure we are conscious of the opportunity that we have, not just to talk about what we are doing in isolation, a little bit here, a little bit in Montebelluna, a little bit in Milano, but to show one single message, right, that talks about the creation of a sports ecosystem that is contemporary, that cares about the future, that cares about climate change, We are in the mountains, and mountains will become more and more relevant in the coming years. We're just experiencing the hottest summer of the past 100 years. So come on, this is going to become a place where people will want to spend time. Let's show them that this is not just a place where you can go climb a mountains, or if you go down to Monte Belluna, someone was producing things. Let's show that this place is contemporary. Let's attract communities of users. Let's come up with a one single strong brand identity that communicates that Olympics are not just happening here, reminding the old Olympics in Cortina, right? Olympics are coming back because there's a reason to be here again. I'm not too sure institutions, public, but also private, because companies are private institutions, are conscious, right, of the big change that uh, could be initiated thanks to the Olympics coming up soon.
Well, it's interesting what you're saying, Giulio, because it's exactly what, or maybe it's very similar to what Assosport President Ferrino said 2 days ago at the inauguration of the Sportsystem. She said, yeah, let's be careful because mountains are going to be a very, very popular destination. So in their popularity will grow in the future because, as you said, it's getting hotter and hotter every year. And we need rules. We need rules to go to the mountains, but do it with in a respectful way, especially when we go in uncontaminated areas. And here, I mean, we've seen the long rows on the Tre Cime di Lavaredo in the last few months. That's terrible. So there is another great problem with over-tourism, that Veneto, which is the first region in Italy for touristic presence, we have 70 million tourists every year. 70 million. It's a huge number. And that's a big deal for us. Over tourism. And maybe in your book we can find some very interesting keys about this problem, because you underline how sport can drive people to secondary areas. So not just Tre Cime di Lavaredo, but kite surf on the Lago di Santa Croce. So sport is coming back. Right, Giulio?
Absolutely.
So we have like 7 minutes left, and Federica is starting to look at me like, be quick, you have 5 minutes left. So are you sure no questions from the audience? No? Okay. Pardon? It's complete, so we did a great job. But yeah, let's just make a last round just for some final remarks, Caroline, or just to say bye to the audience.
Thank you. What I would just say is everyone try and move a bit more. And I didn't mention actually the recommendation is for 150 minutes a week, which is not a lot. It's not running a marathon. It's getting outdoors and walking and just and I also think these smartwatches are great.
Oh yeah, they are.
They're a little bit addictive, but they can track your steps and can really be a source of
Mine just told me, wake up and
move. I know.
I just
It's like
can't.
it can hear me
I just
saying
can't.
move. And these are amazing. And I think these are brilliant sources of data for the
Or
future as
it's
well.
your day, which sounds like a bit scary.
Yeah, it can be, but they're good. Anything to nudge us, to remind us, because we can get all caught up in our lives, that actually just getting outside in the fresh air, it doesn't have to be expensive. It can just be enjoying this amazing scenery that you've got and walking around here. That would be, I say. Please go away and do something today that will.
Are you staying a little bit in Belluno, or
I'm
you're
staying
just
this afternoon, yes. So I'll try.
just one afternoon, just
Yeah.
this afternoon?
Yes, I'll fly back tonight.
But you're coming back.
I
in
will
the-
do.
Oh,
I will
great.
do. It's amazing.
What can I say to conclude? The importance of Italian sporting goods brands, I'd say. Yeah, that's.
We have Manifattura Valcismol here in the first row, of course.
Yeah, it really is an exceptional sector, and I think it deserves the consumer confidence it has.
Uh, Gianni, during the inauguration of the Sport Business Forum. We were in Montebelluna. We spoke a lot about the issue of declining birth rates and brain drain. But you said, okay, guys, we have many challenges, but I want to say bye to the audience with a positive message.
Of course, we must change our paradigm. I don't want to start now with the classic discussion about future generation. All of us know what we'll have in the future. So we pass over this. But for my perspective, we must first create a new and more realistic message for the young people. This is my point of view. Okay, we continue to pass negative information and demotivate the future generation. We must change message in the media, in the school, in the friendly conversation. Okay. For us, we talk several times about future in foundation because future is what we need. Without future, there's nothing. So the future will be amazing for us because the young generation have all what they need for continuing in the good direction. Certainly, it's not enough to be young for everything. They need to study, they need to work hard for it, of course. Have a purpose. Without purpose in your life, it's difficult to create one way. Okay. This is the message. If you have a purpose and the people around to you think positive and pass the correct message and example, is certainly that you have a successful. 100%. 100%. So we must help them with our deep roots to renovate in the young generation the same attitude that all parents and all teachers learn to us. They must study and learn in other century, in other city, in other country, of course, not only in Italy. But please remember that also here in Veneto, there is a future, and certainly a good future. This is one important message. Study, travel, visit other country, use other kind of school, but not forget that also in Veneto you could have a good opportunity.
America is here. Giulio, 1 minute left for you two for the last few words of conclusion before we
Gianni just
say bye.
opens up a huge chapter that I'm talking about these days, even in your newspaper.
Great.
Quite critically, I'm not always, I'm from Veneto and I love this place in the world so much, even though I've been living in many places around the world. But I think that if you want to be kind to one place, you need to be honest. And the truth is that this place has not been attracting talents from all over the world as we wish it would. So why is that not happening? Well, I think it's a combination of things. I believe that in the word I was trying to draw, to explain humbly before, who is winning our big cities? Big cities are winning and are leaving mid-sized cities in the dust. And that's a new thing. In the past, mid-sized cities were champions. Montebelluna was a champion. Vicenza in the gold production was a champion. Treviso with Benetton was champion. They're not champions anymore. Why is that? Because of what I was explaining. In the knowledge economy, the factors that sustain economic development and innovation are concentrating into few places. That's a big problem. And the question is, how do mid-sized cities find a new purpose in this new economic scenario? Now, I don't have a recipe. I'm trying to come up with some ideas. One thing that I've noticed is that what makes mid-sized cities successful? Big companies, we call them company towns, or big universities. I study at Duke University in North Carolina in the US, and Duke University makes Durham. 300,000 people, not a big city. A big university makes a big city. Now let's move to other places. I mentioned Boulder. Boulder, Colorado has about 100,000 people. Bigger than Belluno, but not too much bigger. What makes Boulder the place it is today? University of Colorado. But let's look at other example. La Coruña, Galicia. Everybody knows La Coruña, Galicia. You know what's happening in La Coruña, Galicia? Inditex. Zara is there. 300,000 people. It's a big company that makes a big city. So let's Treviso. Treviso was Benetton for many, many years. People would look at Treviso as the place where Benetton used to compete. Sorry, I know I'm late, but this is very important. So what's going on in Belluno? We need university. I'm so happy to see that Luis is coming here. I'm so happy to see that Verona is coming here. We need to do more. We need to do more. Companies need to team up with university and show people like them, that this is a place where you do want to invest in your future, not just because you have the mountains, not just because you go to Venezia to drink a spritz in Piazza San Marco. Let's not talk about that anymore. That's disrespectful to our kids, to our young generation. They need to come here because we pay them well. They need to come here because here there's a sense of future. And the sense of the future here is not built yet. So companies, cool companies like the one we have here, these are very cool brands. They need to work with university. They need to show that you as a young talent, you do want to invest in Veneto, just beyond the fact that we have Piazza San Marco and the Dolomites. That's for people of my age or older. That's not for people of 20 years old.
Thank you very much. Giulio Buciuni, Gianni Frasson, Caroline Brooks, and Nicola Gelder. It was a pleasure to share some ideas with you. Thank you to our audience and enjoy Sport Business Forum. Grazie a tutti, buona giornata.